the lights, the party's over. They say that all
Bad.
things must end. Call it a night. The party's over.
Nerdrotic.com.
We've all been there. We go to a party, partake in some of the amenities, have a really good time. Things get a little bit out of control, and then complete blackout. The next thing you know, you're waking up in the county jail, calling your dad, asking to bail you out, and he says no. And you ask yourself, what the hell did I do last night? That's currently what Hollywood is going through right now. And that has a lot to do with the current big mouse in Hollywood, Disney, which is a total disaster. Let's recap briefly. Yes, they fired their CEO in the middle of the night on a Sunday. They lost subscribers on Disney Plus for the first time. They also lost billions on that particular streaming service, which has yet to turn a profit. All on the heels of multiple Pixar flops. The monstrosity that was the MCU, and of course we haven't seen a Star Wars film in the theaters since The Rise of Skywalker. Well, if you're a big Disney fan, I've got some bad news for you, and if you're not, well, I've got some good news for you. Things are going to get worse. Disney CEO Bobby Iger calls for newness in Marvel movies. What this means for the MCU's future, what this means is they are admitting failure while not learning anything from it. Disney CEO Bob Iger is no stranger to success, and again, he's going to be no stranger to failure in the movie industry. Under his leadership, Disney has enjoyed a string of hits, including destroying the Star Wars franchise, I put that in there, and currently destroying the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I also put that in there. However, in a recent speech, Iger hinted that the Marvel formula might need to be re-examined. I wonder what brought him to that conclusion. I'm sure it had nothing to do with Ant-Man 3 being an abysmal flop. Initially, that sounds good. I mean, get woke, go broke, right? But words are wind, and we are talking about Disney here, and as I've said before, when change comes, and it will, they will be the very last to the party if they show up at all. The CEO, who has been at the helm of Disney since 2005, saying the quiet part out loud, Bob Chapek was never in charge, has expressed a desire for a fresh approach to Marvel movies. He stated that it's time to explore new characters and stories. What, you're not doing that? Well, you're not exploring any stories because they don't exist in your content, but you certainly are introducing new characters from the all-new, all-different Marvel, and how's that been working out for you? And you have to love this headline above this next set of paragraphs. Disney shifts focus from quantity to quality in MCU content creation. So you're admitting that it sucked. I wonder how that makes the corporate access media shills feel. Was it worth it for that early access and that gift baggie to go out and sell your soul for something you really didn't like? I hunted, because there's no way around this. The focus on quality over quantity means the quantity that they put out before was subpar. Now, to be fair, some of the corporate access media shills just have bad taste. They were born that way. They really can't help it. The Walt Disney Company is in a significant restructuring effort to streamline operations and reduce costs. You don't say. As part of this effort, the company has set a goal of cutting $5.5 billion in expenses, with $3 billion coming from content. I have an easy solution for you. I'm sure George Lucas would buy Star Wars back from you for $3 billion. He's probably got it in his couch. Disney has released a steady stream of new content from the Marvel Cinematic Universe over the past few years. It uses its D+ streaming service to introduce new characters and deeply explore legacy characters between theatrical releases. If deeply explore means vandalizing and then destroying these legacy characters, okay. The increased output from the studio has also exacerbated the production woes that third-party vendors face due to pandemic-related shutdowns. Stop right there. You mean the pandemic-related shutdown of movie theaters that were bailed out by the taxpayer when the multi-billion-dollar Hollywood could have done it on their own? Then you continued to work, missing one key ingredient: your paying customers couldn't. And then because you went all in on streaming when the pandemic was over, you had nothing to give the movie theaters that were bailed out by the public. That very same pandemic that you, Bob Iger, saw coming, stepped down, and then came back when it was over. Anyway, Disney CEO Bob Iger's recent comments suggest that the company is rethinking its approach to content creation with a greater focus on quality over quantity. We hear that once again, and it's not just related to Marvel. But here is where we get a grain of truth. Iger acknowledged that sequels have typically worked well for the company. However, he questioned whether audiences still want to see the third and fourth installments of popular franchises. Well, what could Bobby mean by that? Well, he elaborates, and I'll elaborate further. Noting that the company is looking for other characters and stories, Iger said that fans can expect to see a lot of newness from the MCU over the next 5 years. He said, I think we just need to take a look at what characters and stories we're mining, and you look at the trajectory of Marvel over the next 5 years. Well, if it stays on its current trajectory, it won't have another 5 years. You'll see a lot of newness. We're going to turn back to the Avengers franchise with a whole different set of Avengers. In other words, nothing's going to change. They're going to continue bypassing stories from the Marvel comics that sold in the millions to get straight to the stories that sold in the thousands. All while they're delaying things like the Marvels, Echo, Agatha Harkness, and Ironheart because they need a little more time to put a candy coating on those turds.
That is one big
incredibly diverse
pile of shit.
What Bobby's really saying is he's blaming the very real Marvel Cinematic Universe fatigue on the legacy characters when they're not the problem. Kevin Feige is. Kevin Feige okayed killing off Captain America and Iron Man. Kevin Feige okayed not recasting Black Panther. Kevin Feige okayed saddling Doctor Strange, Thor, and Ant-Man with a bunch of other characters nobody gives a crap about. Just to name the most recent, America Chavez, female Thor, Ironheart, and Casey Lang, which is probably why Marvel Studios has changed its strategy by spreading out its release dates following the release of Ant-Man 3 in February, because delaying crap will make it better somehow. The studio has planned to release Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in May, which will probably be pretty good, seeing that it's essentially a holdover from the good old days. Meanwhile, The Marvels was postponed again until November from its original release date in July, and personally I find that very disappointing. The gap between the new release date of the new D+ Marvel series has also been increased thanks to She-Hulk, the last episode of which aired in October 2022, and no new series has been released since then. Although Secret Invasion and Loki Season 2 are expected to be released next, Disney has not announced their official release dates yet. Bob Iger has said there are 7,000 characters in Marvel, and there's a lot more stories to tell. Unfortunately, there really isn't, and I'll bottom line this for you. From the source material that they purchased in 2009 and have systematically destroyed, there are 7,000 characters, but quite frankly, there's only a handful of titles that drive Marvel Comics, and I could probably break that down to two: Spider-Man and X-Men. Sure, then following distantly behind, there is Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Daredevil, Fantastic Four, the Hulk, and the Avengers. And of course, we're talking comic books that have sold consistently over decades, but the previously mentioned are still the B team compared to Spider-Man and X-Men. And what does the MCU have? Well, again, Iron Man and Captain America are dead. Black Panther didn't get recast. They don't own the rights to Spider-Man. They don't own the full distribution rights to the Hulk. Bob Iger overspent to get the rights to the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, amongst other things, and they haven't done anything with them yet. And it doesn't sound like Hemsworth is coming back as Thor. So whether it be the MCU or Marvel Comics, none of it works without these characters. And Disney Marvel was the successful part. It's even worse for Lucasfilm. Disney being very careful with Star Wars movie development. Well, if you mean we're not making any because we know no one would watch them, sure, I'd file that under careful. And once again, CEO Bobby Iger mentions Solo, hashtag Solo lost money, but doesn't mention the diminishing returns from the Disney trilogy, which were the real problem. Speaking of problems, they don't end there. Mandalorian Season 3 premiere numbers show signs of Star Wars fatigue. Say it ain't so. While the Mandalorian Season 3 premiere episode, Chapter 17, The Apostate, topped Andor's September 21st premiere by 50%, it actually trailed fellow Star Wars offering Obi-Wan Kenobi's opener by 28%, and in a closer number, and this is bad, the Book of Boba Fett by 2%. And Disney has managed to do the impossible, taking one of the easiest layups of all time, buying the biggest intellectual property in film history, Star Wars, and turning it into a category on a fledgling streaming service.
Ow!
But that's not the only property Lucasfilm owns. There's Willow. Oh, maybe not. Willow canceled after one season on D+. To be fair, the writer of Willow, Jonathan Kasdan, has come out and said it has not been canceled, although none of the actors are under contract anymore. He's no longer getting paid, and nothing's going into production.
We fixed the glitch.
I'm sure we'll see Willow Season 2 right after that Rian Johnson Star Wars trilogy.
That's not gonna happen.
And I'm guessing James Mangold, along with the rest of us right now, is wishing he could digitally replace Phoebe Waller-Bridge with Ke Huy Quan in this alleged Indiana Jones film. I don't know about that because there's only 3 Indiana Jones films. So within a month, we hear about Disney Marvel fatigue and Disney Star Wars fatigue, when overall, it's just Disney fatigue. The leader in creative bankruptcy, and let's keep in mind that they rarely make anything original anymore, and when they do, it flops. Hell, they rebooted a CEO. Turning Red, flop. Lightyear, flop. Strange Worlds, flop. But according to Iger, the main Disney brand remains very strong. Certainly the most powerful brand in family entertainment. 100 years after it was created, the forthcoming live-action version of The Little Mermaid, he said, attests to the potency of Disney. Really, Bob? Because the only potent thing I see is the ratios. The live-action Little Mermaid teaser trailer ratioed. The Little Mermaid live-action trailer ratioed. The Peter Pan and Wendy live-action trailer ratioed. But I'm sure the live-action Snow White will turn it around. Well, maybe not. But that's okay, because what's left of the Access Media still has Disney's back, and guess what? It's our fault. From CBR, audiences don't know what they want from Marvel anymore, and Ant-Man 3 proves it. But I've got some good news on that front. Sites like CBR won't be around much longer. From Variety, media's venture capital prospects dim in the post-SVB era. Oh no. And now woke Hollywood's prospects are dim, and that has a lot to do with Disney. Star Wars is dead. Pixar is dead. Turns out you needed John Lasseter after all, and Marvel is dying. Now, specifically, I'm going to be talking to Hollywood and the entertainment industry as a whole. Someday, books will be written, probably by AI, but you can't say we didn't try to warn you. You see, your focus on identity politics ruined absolutely everything. Sure, identity is an aspect of being human, but you forgot to add the heart, the soul, and this thing called fun, and completely ignored the one aspect of all timeless tales, the human condition, the thing that connects us all. And that story can be told through a robot, a monster, an alien, a superhero, or an animated rabbit. I got news for you. Marvel Comics has always been inclusive. Star Wars has always been inclusive. Star Trek, Doctor Who, DC Comics, Lord of the Rings, just to name a few, have always been inclusive, until the woke corporate activists showed up. Listen, I know not everyone is bad in Hollywood, but still, there's going to be a lot of collateral damage, and you are about to learn a very valuable and old lesson. Yes, you guys run the show. You own the IPs, but we made them valuable. You need us, but we don't need you. Nowadays, more than ever, there is plenty to choose from, or we can just make our own stuff. It didn't have to be this way, but instead of listening, you in Hollywood decided to call us every name in the book, including gatekeeper. No, Hollywood, and you in particular, Disney, you are the gatekeepers of what is now a very expensive intellectual property graveyard. I don't know much, but I do know Hollywood is broke. Look for a lot of projects to get outright canceled or quietly shelved, never to be spoken of again. The party is over. And where we go from here is a choice I leave to you. If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long. I will see you in the next video.
Nerdrotic.com.
Try to realize the truth.
What truth?
There is no
People